All right, Bill Mork here again. Thanks for waiting. Looks like most of us have signed in. If there's a few late stragglers, they can catch up. Again, today's presentation is an announcement of Quorum's latest release, 6.0, became available at the beginning of this year. Some really exciting integration with VMware and our protection there. Obviously, VMware is the largest virtualization platform used by most clients. And in addition to Quorum's existing offering, which aims to be really fast, highly secured so that backups remain secured, and also that you can rely on the backups in a ransomware recovery situation. Other than being fast and secured, Quorum still aims to be extremely simple and easy. That's kind of our claim to fame, is the one-click instant recovery. Those three values remain the same, but what VMware Integrated Protection adds to us is a couple things. First is going to be some flexibility in how we do recoveries. So this can be helpful to helping reduce or completely eliminate downtime during a recovery situation. Also have some flexibility that can be used, which I'm sure everyone on the call has experienced at this point, some sort of supply chain disruption. So being able to utilize hardware that we have or that we don't have has become even more important. So flexibility there to helping eliminate downtime. Also later on, when we turn the cards over to Gabriel to run through the technical presentation, one thing he'll talk about thoroughly is our increase in backup speeds. So this is a big value to anyone out there who is struggling today to back up a large amount of data, or some people that we talk to have one server that actually hosts the large majority of their data, and they struggle to back up that one server. Maybe backup windows are going too long, or somehow they time out. Or if you have a large daily change rate and your current backup strategy is struggling to keep up there, the new backup speeds we're still in testing and looking at different people's environments, but they're sometimes 9 times faster than what people were currently doing before. So it's helped resolve some issues there where the amount of data or the amount of data change has impacted people's ability to get backups on a timely manner. And then finally, one thing that we'll talk about is if you have any operating systems that have been challenging for you to protect because your current backup solution does not support them, VMware Integrated Protection allows Quorum to back up and protect, even set up failovers for any operating system that VMware can see. So as long as VMware can support it, so can Quorum. So, and again, just to recap that, fast, secure, and easy have remained a big part of Quorum's offering. And today what we're going to show is flexibility, increased backup speeds, and additional coverage of operating systems by Quorum's VIP or VMware Integrated Protection. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and hand the microphone over to Gabriel as he's going through the presentation. If you have any questions at all, feel free to chat it or message on the window there, and I'll make sure to flag it, and I can tag it into Gabe to make sure that we try to get answered before the end of the call.
Great, thanks a lot, Bill. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. My name is Gabriel. I've been with Quorum for about 10 years now. I came over to Quorum the early part of my career. I worked in IT for different companies or managed service providers in various ways, either with large banks, small banks, law firms, stuff like that. And during that decade, I hit so many disasters that happened to my customer base. Be it, the simple things like backup failures to people getting viruses, natural disasters, servers crashing, losing hardware, that kind of thing. And I learned real quick that is the biggest, most stressful, painful time in any IT person's career, is when everything goes wrong. And when I saw this product, and the reason I came over, I found something that really made that recovery so easy. It changed the way I viewed how you have to handle these disasters. And so I switched, and I came over really to the other side, to the vendor side, to be a part of this company and take it to where we are. So that's kind of how I got started over here at Quorum. I just wanted to give you a little background on myself. And so let's just kind of jump in and we'll talk about the product and why we're here today. So the first thing I want to point to you guys is Quorum's design is to be agnostic to your environment. And what that means is whether you have data that's in the public cloud, maybe you're running a server on Azure or an AWS, or you have on-premise data centers, or even in your office, you need to be able to protect all of these type of environments. And Quorum gives the ability to be that flexible to protect no matter what you have onto the Quorum solution and provide full high availability for local recovery, as well as full remote disaster recovery capabilities. The way we work is we take your data, we back it up, we make a virtual clone of that data. So your data could be physical, it could be on a physical server, it could be on any hypervisor, or it could be residing in the public cloud, as I said, and we can back that up, create a virtual node of that, and be able to recover that either locally, remotely, or in the cloud. And we'll show you the instant recovery capabilities here in just a minute. Along with our ability to recover entire server workloads and application stacks, we can recover individual files as well, giving you the ability to recover that Word document that the accounting guy needs 10 minutes ago. The next thing we do is reporting and analytics. It's a very helpful feature when you're in the backup world to be able to tell you how big your backups are, how often your backups happen, how successful your backups are. And so all of that's built into the product. The on-queue itself is designed to hold between 30 and 40 days of retention. And when I say that, what we do is, let's say you're backing up hourly, you might have, or you will have 24 daily backups then over a 40-day period. And so we size your box to allow for not only that amount of change, but also a 3-year of growth for the appliance based on a 30% annual growth rate. So our basic model is that. However, we know that a lot of our customers are compliance driven or have their own policies and procedures to archive and hold long-term storage. And so the OnQ is built in with an archive module that can take those individual backups from any of those points in time, say your weekly, your monthly, your annual, quarterly, whatever, and archive them and hold them, really tag them for long-term retention. So we can still expire, and manage the overall data footprint, but we can still hold that snapshot for that particular time for a long period. The last piece, and really the most important, is our test and dev sandbox. So because we've built all your servers in a virtual environment and we have a workload built into the appliance or into the architecture itself, you have the ability to test every server as often as you want. And you can bring up your whole environment in the test network and do a full DR test without affecting production. A side effect of this is because we have your entire workload built into the appliance, you could actually set it up on a separate subnet to do full development sandbox testing. So if you have a DevOps organization, or maybe your IT organization wants to test a patch or an upgrade before you roll it out to your environment, you can leverage this sandbox to do all of that without affecting anything in production, and without affecting the backups. So very big way to do all of those things. The 3 reasons most of our customers tell us that they've chosen Quorum is, number 1 is ease of use. Whether you're a small IT shop or a large IT shop, having to spend hours and days managing backups, or having to go out and get a certification to be allowed to manage those backups, is a real pain for a lot of IT organizations. They don't have time for that. They manage their world based on the time they have to do every project or activity. And so that ease of use, not only for recovery, but for management, is a big reason a lot of our customers pick us and stay with us. The next one is security. Quorum was founded actually out of a military contract. Our policy manager was designed to go onto naval ships so that if one of the data centers in the naval ship, let's say, were hit by a torpedo, it could shift that function over to another data center on the ship to keep everything going, and it could do that before someone could make the decision to do that. And so from our DNA, right from the very get-go, everything we've done has been security driven. Because if you're going to work with the military, obviously it has to be a secure environment. So everything in our product is encrypted at rest, encrypted in transit, full HIPAA and PCI compliance. All of our backups are immutable, which means once it's written to our disk, it cannot be edited. Anytime we spin up a recovery server or any functions that you do, never touch the original backup data. All of that is immutable. Everything has a logical air gap. Once we take a backup, we actually unmount that storage from your network so it can't be seen until another backup happens. And then obviously our US-based support, 24/7 US-based customer support. So whenever you have a disaster, you're going to get somebody that's going to be able to help you get through that disaster. The next thing our customers really talk about is the completeness of our solution. And what I mean by that really is our ability to recover your environments, whether you're on Hyper-V or VMware or a physical machine or running from the cloud, that completeness, a way to allow you to function your IT as you need. So if maybe you're on Hyper-V right now, but you're planning to migrate to VMware, you don't want a whole new backup solution. We can handle all of that kind of change in your environment and just keep working. So it's a true disaster recovery option. A little bit about how the OnQ works in a really simple format. Let's say you have virtual machines, physical machines, maybe you have some storage in your on-premise infrastructure. We back up that data to the Quorum appliance, and then we make virtual clones from that data so that any of those servers that might die can actually be recovered directly onto the hardware of the appliance. So that's our traditional way of doing it, and we'll call that our agent-based, because most of our customers that do it this way have agents installed. As we grew our company, we realized, from 10 years ago, cloud was the next best thing. And so we built the Quorum Cloud, and the Quorum Cloud does exactly the same thing as the appliance, but instead of having some hardware on site, you really have a VPN connection to our cloud where those backups sit, and all those servers are built so that if you ever have to recover one-to-many of those servers, you can. From there, we also have the ability to replicate data. So maybe you have two locations and you can have an appliance at site A and an appliance at site B replicating to each other. Or maybe you have servers at both locations and you need to cross-replicate. That's fine as well. The Quorum solution can handle any kind of replication directions that you need to move data in. And then the next one is our traditional DRaaS. And what this is the Quorum Cloud. We put an appliance on site to provide that high availability solution, but then we can replicate that offsite to the cloud to provide full disaster recovery. This is probably the best of every world because the local appliance will give you the speed of your local LAN. So when you bring up that server and you recovered it, you have everything you need to keep running. And the DR gives you that peace of mind that if the whole data center were hit by a tornado, you can recover everything. So that's the most common use case that we see in customer environments. The next thing I want to point out before I kind of go to the next slide is that all of the Quorum solutions, be it in our cloud or in our appliances, all have an NVMe cache of at least 1 terabyte. And the reason I bring that up is because that boosts our performance to the 30,000 IOPS range, down from what a lot of our competitors have, which is about 1,200 IOPS. That's really important because if you have a multiple server failure and you need that server to actually perform so your users can keep working, this provides that horsepower to get you up and running and keep going. All of our appliances come with a wide range of hardware options, be it number of cores, amounts of memory, storage. So there's a large array of options in our hardware to make sure we fit into the right model for you based on the size, number of servers, workloads that you have. And then the last piece, whoops, jumped too far. The next piece is our VIP, and this is our new part of our solution. So everything that we've talked about up till now exists in our new solution. It doesn't go away. This is an and. So not only can we back up all of your servers and recover them to the on-queue, we can now add to that and back up your VMware servers specifically directly to the on-queue from the host level and hold those VMDKs. We can make the same OSs bootable on the on-queue, and any of the unsupported operating systems that are VMware specific, like Proton OS, can be, we still have the VMDKs that we can recover. So let's say you have a Windows server running Exchange. It's a good example. You back it up to the on-queue as a VM. If that server were to crash, we can literally mount the VMDKs back to your VMware hosts and recover that server immediately and then use VMmotion to move it back. Or you can recover it directly to the on-queue appliance and run it from there. Either option works fully and fundamentally. It just depends on your use case and what works for you. Maybe you don't have enough horsepower in your VM stack to run the new servers and you need the extra horsepower of the on-queue, or maybe it's so much easier for you to do it that way because you're so much more comfortable. That's fine as well. If you have an unsupported OS, which means it works in VMware but not on the on-queue, then those are all recoverable back to VMware. The supported operating systems on the on-queue are all of the Windows operating systems, all of the Red Hat kernels of operating systems, so Red Hat, CentOS, Oracle Enterprise, and all of the SUSE operating systems. So those are the three big OS branches that we have right now, and we're constantly adding to those. So to give kind of a recap, it is a 9x or a 900% increase on backup speeds that we're seeing for many of our customers. Because you can recover directly back to your VM host, there's zero downtime for the failback. The VIP failback supports any operating system supported by Windows, or I mean supported by VMware. The cloud support is for both the on-queue and the VIP recovery. So we actually have VM hosts in our cloud. So if you have an operating system that you need to recover to our cloud, we can still recover it there. We can mass deploy with vCenter, so we can basically enroll your whole environment in one go. Of course, as with everything, is encrypted at rest and in transit. Everything has a logical air gap and is immutable. Okay. So that's really all of the slides, thank goodness, that we're going to have. What I'd like to do next is kind of take us into a live session on a machine and see it firsthand how you would recover one of these servers. So give me just a second to switch screens. Okay, can everyone see my screen okay? Bill, can you see my screen?
We can, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so this is an environment that we have. We're protecting the bottom three servers with VIP, and the top server is actually being protected with an agent installed on that server. And we can break up this grouping however we want. This is just an arbitrary way I do it for the demo. So if you want to group your servers based on application stack or by department, by function, all your SQL servers or all of your Windows servers or whatever, you can group these in a million different ways to manage your servers with what works best for you. Everything in the interface is a green light, red light system. So as you can see, everything here is green, which means all of our backups are working, everything is fine. What we're going to do today is we're going to actually take the SQL server down and we're going to recover it in two ways. So I'm going to show you both ways that you can recover this server. So the first way is, let's go ahead and get in here and take the SQL server down. So what I'm going to do is just suspend the server. So that's going to show it going down, and we keep a heartbeat with every server we're protecting. So after a few seconds or so, that server is going to turn red and let me know that it's down, and then I can go ahead and start the recovery process. So as soon as it goes down, I'm going to show you two ways to recover. Actually, I'm going to show you three ways to recover because there's also the test network that we can recover into, and I'll kind of dig into that here in a second. Come on, show me down. hope I have the right server. Well, let's carry on and I'll show you anyway how it works. I'm not sure why it's not reporting in. I might have actually disabled the wrong server, but we'll come back to that. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is recovery to the test network. So what I'm going to do is come over to the recovery nodes tab, and this is where I can boot all of these servers from. And I'm going to start the recovery server, and you can see it gives me two options here. It gives me the test network and the production network. So since this server, I have all of my past snapshots. So let's imagine I got ransomware. I can go back to an earlier point in time, let's say on the 1st, and I can recover that server. Or I can go back to the most recent and recover that server. Whichever one you need for your scenario works just fine. In this case, I'm going to power it up in the test network since I'm not sure I shut off the right server, and I'm going to let that server boot up. That's the entire set of steps that I have to follow to recover that server to the on-queue. It's going to bring that server up. In this case, because I'm bringing it up in the test network, it's going to make sure that it sits in what we call the test network inside the on-queue. Now that test network can be assigned to a physical NIC or subnet that's separate from your production network. So when you bring that server up, you can do all your testing, do whatever you want, and when you're done, you can throw it away. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to recover the VIP. And since I thought the server was on 01, I'll go ahead and recover this one to 02. And I'm just going to show you 02 here so you can see that it has nothing on it. So there is literally the storage is going to be the default storage. There are no virtual machines on this server. And of course it has the default networking. So all of this is 011. We're going to go ahead and recover the server back. So I'm going to pick 02. I'm going to log in. If I'm running vSphere, of course, in my test lab, I'm just running directly onto the ESX boxes. But if I was running vSphere, I could enter the vSphere username and password here, or vCenter username and password just as easily. And I export to VMware. Now I'm going to not turn on the VM just because I don't want an IP conflict in my network. 130. So it goes ahead and it reaches out to that server, it makes communication with it, it takes those VMDKs, it creates a share, it mounts them up to that server so that I can recover. And if I look at it from the server point of view here in a second or so, we'll see that it's going to have a new storage platform. You'll see a virtual machine here that's not booted up, and we'll have fully recovered that server back into production. So while I'm waiting for these to happen, because it'll just take it a second here, are there any questions that anyone has so far? I see people furiously typing at their keyboards. One of the questions that I commonly get is, can I do this in the cloud? And the answer is yes. Quorum has its own cloud. We have data centers on the East and the West Coast that are fully PCI and HIPAA compliant and certified. We go through the third-party audit every year to make sure everything is up to snuff. And both of those data centers are both SOC 2 compliant as well, that meet all of the latest, I guess it's SSAE standards. Those servers can be recovered both to VMware. We have VMware hosts in our cloud as well as to the on-queue. And then we supply each customer with their own virtual firewall so we can actually mimic your whole environment from our cloud to give you the same IPs, the same everything. And we even assign public addresses. So if you had, let's say, a mail server or a web server that needed a public address, it would be pre-assigned to them. Oh, did I type the password in wrong? That makes that harder. Make sure I got the user credentials right this time before I move on. There we go. So it'll mount those and then we'll be able to keep going. Another question popped in here. Is this helpful for someone not using VMware? Actually, yes. So all of the recovery capabilities for the on-queue, the first part that I did where I brought it up in the test network, all of that still applies, even if it's a physical server or Hyper-V or any other hypervisor that you might have, all of those functions still work. So it's still a very valuable solution if you don't have VMware. Now, the features that I'm focusing on in this presentation are the VMware specific ones, but absolutely the on-queue is very powerful to handle all of those recovery needs, no matter if you're on VMware or not. Great question. So just as a note, we started with 011, so now I have a new server on here. And if I bring it up, you'll see there's my SQL server that's recovered from the on-queue, and the storage was mounted up to it specifically for that server so we could recover. So again, I didn't turn it on because I don't want an IP conflict, but I could easily turn that on. And from the on-queue side, now that this server is booted inside the test network of the on-queue, I'm just going to go ahead and open a console session so that you can see that that server is up and running in the test network, and everything that we do within that test network is isolated to it. Still doing driver setup, so give it a second to finish the driver changes. When it moves from whatever the environment was before to the on-queue platform, a lot of the drivers are changed, right? Because we're going different NICs, different processors, and all of that, disk drivers and controllers and whatnot. And so all of those changes takes Windows a second or two to catch up when it boots. But they're all the changes are made. It just needs a minute to get caught up. So we'll let that go. Any other questions coming in or anything else that we can talk to or answer?
Here's one, Gabe. What are some scenarios where you might choose to recover to a different piece of hardware than the original host or maybe the Quorum appliance?
Great question. So a lot of times, if it's a single server, I would recommend typically you're going to recover back to your VMware host. But if you have maybe the host is what went down, now you don't have the workload to handle the extra servers that you would need to recover. And so recovering to the appliance makes a lot of sense at that point. Or maybe you have ransomware and you just don't trust the host anymore because maybe it's what was infected. That's another reason you would want to recover to the appliance versus to the host. Good question. And there you go. As you can see, we're there. We can go ahead and log in if we want. Oops, wrong level. Bill, do you have any other questions coming at you?
Don't see any thus far, but thanks for those who've asked. And if you do think of any questions, feel free to do like Derek or anyone else and just IM them there and I'll feed them to Gabe.
Very good. So in a nutshell, we've made that recovery process as simple as a click to start the server and give you full capabilities to recover that server back into production, into a test network, or physically back to your VIP host or your VMware host with Quorum VIP. So whether it's on-premise, remote, cloud, physical servers, virtual servers, cloud-based servers, full capabilities to recover and get your production load back up and running at production speeds is really what we do in a nutshell. So Bill, I'm going to hand it back to you if there's no more questions, and we can go from there.
That sounds good. Maybe just one question I have that you can maybe share from your experience with the VIP so far. What type of clients, or I should say, what situations Is this VIP super helpful if clients are out there struggling today with their current backup solution? Like,
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, one of the biggest ones is the speed with which we take the backups. We're basically going at wire speed at that point, or block speed. And so as fast as you can get the data off your server, we can accept it. And a lot of customers really struggled with other tools that were backing up files individually or whatever, taking hours and hours and hours. The amount of data that people have has grown over the last couple of years astronomically. 10 years ago, we saw people with 1 million files and thought, wow, that's a lot of files. And now we commonly have people with 100 million files in a file system, and they struggle with the traditional backup methods of file-based backups. So this is a much better way for us to manage and back up those servers.
Roger that. I guess we've all kind of turned into data hoarders. So
Yeah,
that amount grows each and every year, doesn't it?
It sure does.
So people struggling with a large amount of data or daily change, also the flexibility of recovery for different DR scenarios or the lack of hardware available to us. And then also if you've had any tricky operating systems that maybe are currently unsupported, this VIP integration will be really helpful. Thanks to everybody who signed on today. We'll follow up with you as after the meeting. But if you have any questions, or you'd say, hey, this is pretty interesting, but I'd love a one-to-one demonstration so I can ask some questions or see a specific disaster recovery scenario, please let us know. We're happy to support and arrange.
And just to throw in a last piece, I guess I did turn off the correct server. It is red. I just wasn't patient enough to let the timeout happen. So that did happen, just so everyone can see.
Thanks, Gabe.
Anyway, thanks everybody for your time. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the future. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.